You know that quiet moment right before the world wakes up, when the air feels still and you can almost hear your own heart beating. That's the kind of peace we all long for, the kind that doesn't disappear when life gets loud again. But here's the truth. Most of us spend our days chasing calm like it's something out there fine. In the next job, the next trip, the next plan. What if it's not out there at all? What if it's already inside you, waiting for you to come home to it? Stay with me for a while. Let's take a deep breath together. And maybe, just maybe, you'll feel something shift. And hey, if these words bring you even a little peace, consider subscribing. Not for me, but for yourself. A small reminder each week to breathe, to slow down, to return to what really matters. You see, when life starts spinning out of control, when your mind races and your heart feels heavy, the first thing you can do is stop. Just stop and breathe. Not the quick, shallow kind of breath we take when we're rushing somewhere, but a long, slow inhale. Feel the air slide into your chest. Let it out gently. That's it. Breathing doesn't sound like much, but it's everything. It's the moment when the storm outside can't reach the stillness inside. In Buddhist teachings, they say peace comes from within, and that's not just a quote to post online. It's a way of living. When I first started practicing this, it felt strange. I'd be upset, maybe after an argument or when plans fell apart, and I'd just close my eyes and breathe. I thought, how can this help? But slowly I noticed my thoughts weren't running the show anymore. My breath was. Breathing connects you back to right now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, just now. And in the now, things are always simpler. Maybe you're sitting in traffic. Maybe someone said something that hurt. But in this single breath, none of that owns you. You're just breathing, alive, still here. That's powerful. Because when you breathe like this, you give yourself the space to choose how you respond instead of reacting from old habits. And that little space, that tiny pause, can change everything. I remember once, a friend called me in tears. She'd just gotten some bad news, and her thoughts were all over the place. Panic, anger, fear. I told her, okay, stop talking for a second. Just breathe with me. We did it together, over the phone. 5 slow breaths. When she finally spoke again, her voice was softer. I don't know what to do, she said, but I feel calmer. That's what the breath does. It doesn't fix life, but it makes space for peace to show up. And once you have that space, that gentle stillness, you start to notice the noise in your head a little differently. You realize that negative thoughts come and go like passing clouds. They're not you. They're not the whole truth. In Buddhism, there's this idea we are shaped by our thoughts. If you keep feeding your mind fear, that's what grows. But if you feed it with hope, compassion, patience, that's what starts blooming instead. I've tried both, believe me. I've spent years believing every worried thought that crossed my mind. You're not good enough. You're too late. You'll never get there. And every time I believed those thoughts, they became a little more real. But one day I asked myself, what if these thoughts are just guests passing through? So now when a negative thought shows up, I try not to fight it. I just say, hey, I see you, but I don't have to invite you to stay. Maybe something goes wrong and I think, this is terrible. Then I take a breath and ask, or maybe it's a lesson? It doesn't always change the situation, but it changes how I feel inside it. It's like looking at a cloudy sky and realizing above the clouds, the sun is still there. If you've ever had one of those days where everything feels heavy, remember this. Peace isn't about controlling what happens outside. It's about softening inside, no matter what happens. It's about learning to breathe through the mess. Life won't stop being messy. People will still say things that sting. Plans will still fall apart. But your breath, your calm, can stay steady through it all. Maybe you're listening to this because you've been searching for something. Peace, clarity, a little hope. And maybe you've tried everything else. That's okay. Maybe all you need right now is this. One slow breath. One quiet reminder that you are more than your worries. You are the sky, not the storm. And if you ever forget that, come back here. Breathe with me again. Together we'll learn, one moment at a time, how to stay calm in a world that never stops moving. Because maybe calm isn't something we find. Maybe it's something we remember. You ever notice how some days, no matter how hard you try, everything just feels heavy? You wake up fine, but then one small thing happens. Someone says the wrong word, a plan changes, something breaks. And suddenly it feels like the whole world's pressing down on your chest. I've been there. We all have. And what I've learned the hard way is that sometimes the pain doesn't come from what's happening, but from how tightly we hold on to it. Buddhism has this quiet truth that I've come to love. Attachment is the root of suffering. But when I first heard that, I thought, so what? I'm supposed to stop caring? No, not at all. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It's learning to love, to care, to try, without letting every little thing control your peace. It's knowing when to breathe and say, it's okay. I can let this pass. There was a time I couldn't do that. I used to hold on to everything, to people, to regrets, to things I couldn't fix. I'd replay conversations in my head 1,000 times thinking, if only I'd said this, or why did that ever happen? And you know what? None of it ever made me feel better. It only made me tired. One day, an old friend told me something simple that I never forgot. She said, maybe peace doesn't come from fixing everything. Maybe it comes from not needing to. That hit me hard. I started practicing what I call the pause. Whenever something hurt or made me angry, I'd pause instead of reacting. I'd breathe, like we talked about before, and I'd ask myself, can I control this? Most times, the answer was no. And in that moment, I'd whisper to myself, then let it go. It's not easy, especially when your heart's involved. But every time I practiced that, it got lighter. Imagine trying to hold on to sand. The tighter you grip it, the faster it slips away. That's what control is like. We try to hold on, to keep people from leaving, to make life go the way we think it should. And the harder we fight, the more peace we lose. But when you open your hand, the sand stays. You can feel it, appreciate it, and still let it flow when it's time. Letting go isn't about losing. It's about freeing yourself to breathe again. There's a story I once heard about a monk who carried a woman across a muddy path. Hours later, his companion asked, why did you carry her? We're not supposed to touch women. The monk smiled and said, I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? That's us, isn't it? We carry things long after they're over. The argument, the mistake, the disappointment. It's already done, but inside we're still replaying it, still carrying the weight. So maybe today's the day to put it down. Whatever it is, that guilt, that regret, that expectation that didn't go the way you hoped, maybe it's time to just set it down and walk lighter. It's okay to let go. It's okay to stop fighting everything you can't control. And here's something I've learned. When you finally release what's weighing you down, you make space for peace to come in. That space, that quiet inside, is where calm grows. It's where gratitude lives. You start noticing little things again. The sound of rain, the warmth of your coffee, the smile of someone passing by. When you stop clinging to what's gone, You suddenly see what's still here. I want to tell you about someone I met a few years ago, an older man who'd lost almost everything in a house fire. His home, his photos, his books gone. When I asked how he was coping, he said softly, "I lost things, not my peace." I didn't understand how he could say that. So I asked, "How do you stay so calm?" He smiled and said, "Because I stopped asking why. I started asking, what now?" That's what letting go sounds like. Not giving up, just changing the question. And maybe that's what you need today. Maybe you don't have to figure everything out. Maybe you just need to stop asking why and start asking what now. What can I do in this moment? What can I be grateful for? What can I learn? Sometimes that small shift is enough to bring a little light back in. I won't lie. This isn't something you master overnight. It's a practice, like learning how to swim. You start with shallow water, a small frustration, a simple disappointment, and you learn to breathe through it. Then, slowly, when the bigger waves come, you'll find you can float. You'll still feel the storm, but it won't drown you. You'll know how to stay calm inside the chaos. So if you're listening right now and you feel lost or tired, take this moment for yourself. Take one slow breath in and one out. Whisper quietly, "I don't need to control everything." Feel that? That's peace. Small, quiet, but real. It's the beginning of freedom. And if this speaks to you, if it feels like a soft hand on your shoulder, reminding you that you're not alone, I'd love for you to stay with me on this journey. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so we can keep walking this path together, one calm breath at a time. Because peace isn't found in perfect days or perfect plans. It's found here in this breath, in this letting go, in this very moment. You know, when we talk about peace, most people imagine this big, magical moment. Like one day you'll wake up and suddenly everything will make sense. Everything will feel light and beautiful. But peace doesn't really come like that. It's not a grand event. It's a slow unfolding. It's what happens in the quiet moments, when you start noticing what's still good, even when life isn't perfect. That's where gratitude lives. I remember once sitting by the window on a rainy afternoon, feeling like the world was just too much. You know that feeling, when nothing's really wrong, but somehow your heart feels heavy. I looked out at the rain, and for the first time in a while, I didn't rush to distract myself. I just watched. I noticed how the drops slid down the glass, how the trees swayed gently, how the sound of the rain felt like the world whispering, "You're still here." And right there, something shifted. I thought, maybe peace isn't about fixing the storm. Maybe it's about learning to listen to the rain. That's gratitude. Not the kind you write down once a year on Thanksgiving, but the kind that sneaks into your heart when you start paying attention. It's when you realize that even in the middle of chaos, there's still something good, a warm meal, a friend's voice, a body that still breathes, a morning that still comes. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it softens it. It gives your heart a place to rest. There's this beautiful thing I once heard. What you focus on grows. When you focus on what's missing, your life feels empty. But when you focus on what's here, your life feels full, even if it's simple. The mind like a garden. Whatever you water grows. If you keep watering worry, it blooms everywhere. But if you start watering gratitude, it slowly takes over, one small flower at a time. Maybe you've been through a lot lately. Maybe your heart's tired, and gratitude feels hard to find. That's okay. You don't have to force it. You don't need to list 10 things you're thankful for. Just start with one. Maybe it's your breath. Maybe it's that you made it through another day. Maybe it's just that you're here, listening right now, trying to find a bit of peace. That's enough. There's something quiet and powerful about saying thank you, even when life isn't perfect. It's like opening a small window in a dark room. The light doesn't rush in all at once, but it starts to glow. You begin to see things differently. The little moments, a smile from a stranger, the sound of wind, your own heartbeat, they all become reminders that life, even when it's messy, still has beauty in it. And maybe over time, that thankfulness becomes your anchor. When life feels shaky, gratitude keeps you steady. It says, yes, this moment is hard, but look, there's still something good here. You learn to stop chasing happiness and start recognizing it. In the ordinary, in the quiet, in the now. There was a woman I met once. She'd lost her husband after 50 years of marriage. When I asked how she was holding up, she smiled softly and said, I miss him every day, but I'm thankful I had someone worth missing. That stayed with me, because that's gratitude, not pretending everything's fine, but finding love in what remains. Maybe you've lost something too, a person, a dream, a version of life you thought you'd have. Gratitude doesn't ask you to forget it. It just reminds you that love and loss can exist together. That beauty can still rise from brokenness. That even pain, in some strange way, can teach us to see life more deeply. So tonight, before you sleep, maybe just whisper one small thank you. Not because everything's perfect, but because something inside you still hopes, still breathes, still believes in tomorrow. Let that be your prayer, your meditation, your peace. And if moments like this speak to you, if they bring even a little warmth to your heart, I'd love for you to stay connected here. Subscribe if you haven't yet, not because of an algorithm or a number, but because this is a space where we remind each other to slow down, to breathe, to notice the light that's already here. Because at the end of the day, peace doesn't come from having everything. It comes from being grateful for the little things, the things we already have, the people who care, the breath that's still moving through us. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's where true happiness begins, not in what we want, but in what we already hold. You know, sometimes it feels like the world just doesn't stop talking. There's always something, the phone buzzing, the news shouting, people rushing everywhere, each moment louder than the last. It's hard to hear yourself in all that noise. And maybe that's why so many of us feel lost. It's not that we don't have answers. It's that we can't hear them anymore. I used to think peace meant escaping all that. Like maybe if I could go live somewhere quiet, by a lake or in the mountains, then I'd finally feel calm. But life doesn't work that way, does it? You can't always walk away. The truth is, peace isn't about where you are. It's about how you meet the world, even when it's loud. There was a monk once asked how he stayed peaceful while living in a busy city. He smiled and said, "The noise is outside. I don't let it in." That line changed something in me, because the noise will always be there. People talking, things breaking, plans falling apart. But we don't have to let that noise live in our hearts. We can choose what gets in. Sometimes I practice what I call small silences. Maybe you can try it too. When the day feels too heavy, I just stop for a few seconds, right where I am. Maybe I'm washing dishes, or waiting in traffic, or walking down a crowded street. I take one quiet breath, close my eyes if I can, and say to myself, "I'm here." That's it. Just those two words. I'm here. And for a moment, everything slows down. The noise fades. The world softens. It's not magic, but it feels like it. Because what you're really doing in that moment is coming back to yourself. You're saying, I don't need to chase anything right now. I don't need to fix everything. I just need to be. And somehow that's enough. Maybe peace isn't this huge, unreachable thing. Maybe it's built from little pauses, the quiet between two breaths, the soft space before you react, the second you choose kindness instead of anger. Peace grows in those moments, slowly, like light spreading through a room at dawn. I remember once, someone cut me off in traffic. My first reaction was the usual, that spark of irritation, that urge to shout. But instead, I just exhaled and whispered, maybe they're having a hard day. And suddenly, the whole story changed. That tiny thought, that choice to see through compassion, turned my anger into calm. It didn't fix traffic, but it fixed me. It's funny, isn't it? We spend our whole lives chasing peace, but it's never hiding. It's always right here, waiting for us to notice. Maybe it's in the sound of your breath right now. Maybe it's in the soft light touching your room. Maybe it's in the fact that no matter what happened, you're still here, still learning, still growing, still trying. Life won't stop being noisy. People won't stop being complicated. But you can still find your quiet. You can carry it inside you like a candle. The world can storm and shout all around. But as long as that flame stays lit, you'll never be lost in the dark. And when you start to live that way, gently, slowly, with awareness, something beautiful happens. You begin to move through life differently. You don't rush to prove yourself. You don't need to win every argument. You start choosing peace over pride, understanding over reaction. You realize that calm doesn't mean weakness. It means strength, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't fight, just is. Maybe that's what true wisdom feels like. Not knowing all the answers, but knowing when to stay still. Not fixing every storm, but learning how to dance in the rain. Not waiting for life to be quiet, but learning how to be quiet within life. So if the world feels loud today, take a breath. Step back from the noise. Whisper softly, "It's okay. I can be calm even here." Let that become your practice. Let that become your peace. And if moments like this help you breathe a little easier, I'd love for you to stay close. Subscribe if you haven't, not just to hear my voice, but to remind yourself that calm is something you can return to again and again, no matter how the world turns. Because maybe peace was never about escaping the noise. Maybe it's about learning to hear your heart more clearly, even when everything else is loud. You know, there's this quiet truth that life keeps trying to teach us, though most of us are too busy to hear it. The present moment is all we really have. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, just this breath, right here, right now. It sounds simple, almost too simple. But maybe that's why we miss it. We're always waiting for the next thing, the next chapter, the next plan, the next sign that everything's finally okay. But life is happening here, in the small space between one heartbeat and the next. I used to live everywhere, but the present. My mind was always wandering, replaying old mistakes or rushing ahead to things that hadn't even happened yet. And you know what I found? The more I lived in my head, the less I felt alive. It was like watching my own life from a distance. Always planning, always worrying, but never really being. Then one evening, I was sitting by a river. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. I remember the water looked like it was breathing. For the first time in a long while, I didn't think about what was next. I just watched. The air was soft, the world was quiet, and I thought, this is it. This moment, not perfect, not dramatic, but deeply enough. I realized I'd spent so much time chasing peace that I've been running right past it. Maybe that's what we all do. We keep thinking peace is somewhere in the future, when the problems are gone, when we figure it all out, when the heart finally stops hurting. But what if peace is already here, waiting for us to stop running? Maybe all we need to do is pause and notice what's in front of us. The way the light hits the wall, the rhythm of your breath, the sound of your own heartbeat reminding you you're still here. And it's okay if your mind keeps wandering. That's just what minds do. The practice isn't to stop thinking. It's to keep coming back. Again and again, gently. Like saying to yourself, it's okay. I'm here. That's presence. Not perfection, just a soft returning. There's a story I love about a Zen master who said, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. At first, I didn't get it. But now I see it's about this. That peace doesn't change what you do. It changes how you do it. The same dishes, the same walk, the same ordinary life. But with presence, everything becomes sacred. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every moment becomes enough. And maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he talked about awakening. Not escaping the world, but waking up within it. Seeing life as it is, imperfect, fleeting, beautiful, and saying, yes, this too. When you stop fighting what is, something magical happens. You start to live lighter. You stop needing life to be different to feel at peace. You begin to trust that even in uncertainty, you can still be okay. Sometimes when I'm feeling restless, I just place a hand over my heart and say quietly, right now this is enough. It's such a small thing, but it brings me back from tomorrow's worries, from yesterday's ghosts, right here where life actually is. And every time I do that, I feel something soft rise inside, something like gratitude, something like love. You see, the present moment isn't just where life happens. It's where healing happens too. The past can't touch you here. The future hasn't arrived. All that exists is this breath, this sound, this now. And when you really let yourself feel that, even for a few seconds, the whole world seems to slow down. You realize you don't need to rush anymore. You don't need to chase. You can just be. So maybe tonight, as you listen to these words, you can take a slow breath and whisper to yourself, this moment is enough. Let the world be what it is. Let your heart rest. The peace you're looking for isn't somewhere far away. It's right here, waiting for you to notice. And if this brings you a little calm, if it helps your heart breathe just a bit easier, I'd love for you to stay connected here. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so we can keep sharing these quiet moments together. Because that's all this is, really, a space to come home to yourself, to remember that life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Maybe peace was never about escaping the world or fixing it or becoming someone new. Maybe it's just about showing up fully, right here in this breath, in this imperfect, beautiful, fleeting moment, and saying softly, I'm here, and that's enough. There's a kind of quiet ache that most people carry, that soft, hidden feeling that maybe we're not enough. We don't say it out loud, but it lives somewhere in us. It shows up when we compare, when we doubt, when we replay our mistakes. It whispers in the back of our minds, if only I were better, if only I hadn't failed, if only I could be someone else. And for so long, I believed that voice. I thought I had to earn love, prove my worth, fix myself before I could rest. But love, real love, doesn't work like that. The truth is, we don't need to become perfect to be worthy of love. We just need to remember that even with all our flaws, we're already enough. It took me years to understand that. Years of trying to be what I thought people wanted. Years of chasing approval, like it could somehow make me whole. But one day, I looked in the mirror, really looked, and I saw someone tired, someone trying so hard to be everything but herself. And in that moment, I felt this deep sadness followed by something softer, compassion. I whispered, You've done your best. It's okay. And somehow, that was the beginning of healing. Maybe that's where love begins, not in perfection, but in gentleness. In learning to speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you care about. We spend so much time offering kindness to others, but forget to offer any to ourselves. We tell friends, it's okay to make mistakes, but when it's us, we judge, we criticize, we hide. What if just for today, you could talk to yourself with the same warmth you give others? What if you could say, maybe I didn't get it right, but I'm still learning. Maybe I've fallen, but I'm still here. Self-love isn't arrogance, and it's not selfishness. It's forgiveness. It's saying, I'm human, and that's enough. It's giving yourself permission to rest, to be imperfect, to start again without guilt, because no one heals by hating themselves into change. We heal when we feel safe enough to grow, and that safety begins with self-kindness. There's a story about a monk who asked his teacher, how do I learn to love myself? The teacher said, stop trying to be lovable. Just love. I think about that a lot. Because maybe it's not about waiting until we feel worthy. Maybe it's about loving ourselves through the mess, through the fear, through the regret, through all the places that still ache. Love isn't something you earn. It's something you allow. And if you listen closely, you might notice that deep inside, beneath all the noise and doubt, there's already a quiet love inside you. It's the part that keeps you going after every heartbreak. The part that whispers, try again. The part that shows up even on the hardest days. That's love, not the loud, romantic kind, but the soft, enduring one that's always been with you, waiting to be noticed. Maybe tonight you can do something small, place a hand over your heart and say, I'm proud of you. Not because everything's perfect, but because you're still here. Because you're still trying, still choosing kindness in a world that often forgets it. And if that feels strange, that's okay. Start small. Whisper like a secret. Let it grow slowly, one gentle breath at a time. I think that's the real heart of the Buddhist path. Not just peace, not just mindfulness, but compassion. True compassion begins here with yourself. Because when you learn to hold your own heart softly, you naturally start holding the world that way too. Your kindness spills over. You stop needing to prove, to compare, to rush. You just live gently, openly, honestly. And if these words reach you, if they make you pause for a moment and breathe a little deeper, then I hope you'll stay on this journey with me. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so we can keep walking this quiet path together. Not to chase perfection, but to remember that even in our brokenness, we are still whole. Because maybe loving yourself isn't about becoming someone new. Maybe it's about coming home to the person you've always been, beneath the noise, beneath the expectations, beneath the fear. Someone soft, someone strong, someone enough. So tonight, when the world gets quiet and it's just you and your thoughts, try saying again, I'm enough, I'm learning, I'm still here. Let that be your prayer. Let that be your peace. There's something heavy that many of us carry, the quiet weight of hurt. Maybe it's from someone who disappointed us, betrayed us, or walked away when we needed them most. Or maybe it's the weight of our own mistakes, the things we wish we hadn't said or done. Whatever it is, that weight can live in us for years, sometimes so quietly that we forget it's there. But it shows up in the tightness in our chest, in the way we flinch when someone reminds us of the past, in that quiet resistance to trust again. Forgiveness. That's such a soft word for something so hard. It doesn't come easy. It's not a button you press or a decision you make overnight. It's more like a slow loosening, one breath at a time, one small letting go after another. When I was younger, I used to think forgiveness meant saying, it's okay, but it's not. Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was right. It means you're tired of carrying the pain. It means you're ready to stop letting what hurt you continue to have power over you. There was a woman I once met during a meditation retreat. She told me she hadn't spoken to her sister in 15 years. We said terrible things, she said. And every time I think about her, I still feel angry. I asked her if she wanted to forgive. She said, yes, but I don't know how. So every morning, she sat quietly, breathing in and out, whispering her sister's name with every exhale. She didn't force anything, didn't try to feel love or even peace. She just breathed her name. After a few weeks, her eyes softened when she spoke of her sister. She said, I don't know if I forgive her yet, but I don't hate her anymore. Sometimes that's where it begins, not in love, but in the softening. Forgiveness isn't always about the other person. Sometimes it's about you, freeing yourself from being tied to that moment, to that pain. When you hold on to resentment, it's like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to suffer. It burns you first. I know that pain. I once held on to anger for years, thinking it made me strong. But anger doesn't make you strong. It makes you rigid. You stop growing because your heart stays stuck in that one story of hurt. And life can't flow through a closed heart. Buddhist wisdom teaches that forgiveness is an act of liberation. It's not something you do for others, but something you offer to yourself. It's like unclenching your hand after years of holding a stone. The moment you open your palm, you realize the stone never belonged there. You were the one choosing to keep it. And when you let it go, even just a little, your hand feels lighter, your heart feels freer. Maybe you've been hurt deeply, and the thought of forgiving feels impossible. That's okay. You don't have to rush it. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's understanding that the past no longer needs to define who you are now. It's giving yourself permission to move forward without bitterness. Some wounds take time. Some days you'll think you've forgiven, and then something will stir the pain again. Don't see that as failure. It just means you're still healing. Healing isn't a straight line. It's more like a spiral, gently bringing you back to the same lessons until your heart fully understands them. And then there's the hardest kind of forgiveness, forgiving yourself. Maybe you said something you can't take back. Maybe you let someone down. Maybe you made a choice that changed everything. The mind loves to replay those moments, doesn't it? Like a movie that never ends. But here's what I've learned. You can't hate yourself into being better. You can only love yourself enough to learn. So, what if tonight, instead of asking, why did I do that, you asked, what was I needing when I did? That one question changes everything. Because underneath every mistake, there's usually pain or fear or confusion, not evil. And when you can look at yourself with that kind of honesty and compassion, that's where real forgiveness begins. Maybe you can try this. Sit somewhere quiet, close your eyes, and picture the person or the version of yourself you've been holding anger toward. See them clearly, and then with a soft breath whisper, I release you. I release me. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to begin. Forgiveness is a practice, not a performance. And maybe as you listen to this, a part of you still feels heavy. That's okay too. Healing takes time. But I promise you this, when forgiveness finally comes, even just a little, it feels like the first morning after a long storm. The air feels lighter. The world looks softer. And you start to remember what peace feels like. If this message touched you, stay with me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, not because I need it, but because maybe you do. Because this is a space where we can breathe together, learn together, and let go one small moment at a time. You don't have to do it all today. Just start by saying, maybe someday I'll forgive, and let that be enough for now. You know, one of the hardest lessons life will ever teach us is that everything changes. It sounds simple, right? We say it all the time. Nothing lasts forever. But it's one thing to say it and another thing entirely to feel it. Because when life shifts, when someone leaves, when a season ends, when familiar becomes unfamiliar, it shakes something deep inside us. We humans crave stability. We want the people we love to stay the same, the places we cherish to remain untouched, the stories we live to unfold exactly as we imagine. But the truth is, everything that lives is always in motion. Even the mountains are slowly changing shape. Even the stars one day will fade. I remember once sitting under a tree in the middle of autumn, watching the leaves fall like soft whispers to the ground. There was such beauty in it, and yet such sadness too, because every falling leaf felt like a reminder of how temporary everything is. And then, suddenly, it hit me, maybe that's the point. Maybe the beauty is in the falling. Maybe what makes life precious is the very fact that it doesn't last. Buddha once said, all conditioned things are impermanent. That means everything that's born will change, and everything that changes will pass away. It's not meant to scare us. It's meant to set us free. Because once you stop fighting change, once you stop clinging to what must eventually go, something miraculous happens. Peace begins to take root. You start to see that you don't have to control the tides. You just have to learn how to float. When my father passed away, I spent months trying to hold on to every little memory. His voice, his laugh, the smell of his jacket. I was terrified of losing them, as if forgetting even one detail would mean losing him again. But one night, as I sat in meditation, I realized something. He wasn't gone. He had just changed form. He was in the air I breathed, in the lessons he left behind, in the love that still lived in my heart. Death didn't erase him. It just transformed the way he existed in my life. That's how life works. Everything transforms. Relationships shift, dreams evolve, our bodies age, our roles change, and yet through it all, there's something within us that doesn't change. That quiet space of awareness, the watcher behind the thoughts, the calm presence beneath the noise, it's always there. It's like the sky that stays vast and still, no matter how many clouds pass through. When you begin to live from that place, from that inner sky, the storms don't scare you as much. You start to see them for what they are, temporary movement of energy, just passing through. Most suffering comes from resistance. We don't suffer because things change. We suffer because we wanted them not to. We fight the flow, trying to hold on to something that life is asking us to release. But have you ever noticed? The tighter you hold, the more it hurts. The moment you unclench your hands, the moment you whisper, okay, I trust this too. Something inside you relaxes. You breathe deeper. You stop swimming against the current and finally let the river carry you where it needs to go. That's what acceptance really is, not giving up, but giving into the rhythm of life. It's saying, I don't have to like this, but I can still make peace with it. And that peace is not loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or revelations. It's quiet, like a candle that doesn't flicker even when the wind blows. I think of all the times I've tried to control outcomes, try to make people stay, try to make plans unfold the way I wanted. And I smile now, because I see how life was always gently guiding me somewhere else, even when I didn't understand it. Every ending was a redirection. Every loss was a doorway. Every moment of uncertainty was life's way of saying, there's something new waiting if you'll just let go. So tonight, if you're standing in the middle of change, unsure what comes next, please remember this. You are not breaking apart. You are being reshaped. The version of you that needed the old life is making space for the version that's ready for something more. Breathe into that. Don't rush to fill the empty spaces. Let them breathe too, because sometimes the emptiness isn't the end. It's the beginning of something beautiful you can't yet see. And maybe as you listen to this, your heart feels both heavy and hopeful. That's okay. Both can live together. In Buddhism, that's what we call the middle path. Not rejecting pain, not clinging to pleasure, but walking calmly through both. It's where true peace lives, not in avoiding change, but in learning to dance with it. If these words are helping you see your own journey a little differently, stay with me, because in the next part, we'll talk about how to nurture inner stillness, even when life feels loud, how to return to that peaceful center, no matter what's happening around you. There's a quiet kind of peace that lives beneath all the noise. You can't always hear it first, not when your mind is racing, not when the world feels too loud, not when your heart is busy trying to hold everything together. But it's there, always there, waiting patiently beneath the surface, like a calm lake hidden beneath restless waves. Sometimes all it takes is one deep breath, one moment of stillness, for you to feel again, that gentle reminder that peace was never lost, just forgotten. I used to think peace meant silence, like everything had to stop for me to finally rest. But life doesn't really work that way, does it? The world doesn't stop spinning. People don't stop talking, and thoughts don't stop showing up just because we want them to. Real peace isn't about escaping the noise. It's about learning how to hear it differently. It's about sitting in the middle of the storm and realizing the storm doesn't have to own you. You see, there's this space between one breath and the next, that tiny pause where nothing needs to happen, and yet everything feels okay. That's what stillness feels like. It's not an absence of life. It's the presence of calm within life. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." And I think he meant that no matter what's happening out there, the arguments, the worries, the noise, there's always a small, quiet home inside you that can't be touched by any of it. I remember a time when I was going through one of the hardest seasons of my life. Everything around me felt uncertain, work, relationships, even my own sense of direction. I kept trying to fix it all, control it all, make sense of it. But the more I tried, the louder the noise became. One night, exhausted, I just sat in the dark. No phone, no plans, no words, just silence. And for the first time in a long while, I stopped trying to change anything. I simply breathed. And in that stillness, I felt something shift. The problems didn't disappear, but their grip on me did. There was this soft, steady feeling that whispered, "You don't have to figure it all out right now. Just be here." Maybe that's what we all need sometimes. Permission to stop running, to stop fixing, to stop performing. To just be. Because when you sit quietly with yourself, you begin to notice how much peace is already there. You notice the rhythm of your breath, the way your chest rises and falls, the way the air feels on your skin. You realize that even though your mind may be busy, your heart is still beating, your body is still here in life, in all its simplicity, is still happening. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing one thing, being fully present. When you drink your morning coffee, really taste it. When you walk outside, feel the ground beneath your feet. When someone talks to you, listen with your whole being, not just your ears. These small acts of presence, they're sacred. They pull you out of your mind and back into your life. And slowly, something beautiful happens. The more you practice presence, the quieter your thoughts become. The waves don't crash as hard. The noise fades into background. You begin to see the world not as something happening to you, but as something unfolding with you. That's peace, not a destination, but a way of being. Sometimes people ask me, how do I find peace when everything feels wrong? And I always tell them the same thing. Don't chase it. Sit still long enough, and it will find you. Peace isn't out there waiting in some perfect future. It's right here, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this very moment where you're listening. Maybe that's why you found this channel, why you're here, hearing these words. Maybe it's life's way of gently reminding you to slow down, to come home to yourself. If these quiet moments we share bring you even a little sense of calm, then stay, subscribe, so we can keep walking this gentle path together. Not because I have all the answers, but because sometimes it's nice to be reminded that peace is possible even here, even now. And tonight, when the world gets still and your thoughts start to soften, try closing your eyes and whispering, I'm here, and that's enough. Let your breath be your anchor. Let the quiet hold you, because the truth is, peace was never gone. It was just waiting for you to listen. There's something quietly sacred about the ordinary moments we so often overlook. The way the morning light slips through the window, the smell of coffee drifting through the air, the sound of someone's laughter from another room. These tiny, fleeting things, they don't shout for your attention, but they hold a kind of peace that words can't quite capture. I used to rush through days like that, always chasing something, a plan, a goal, the next version of happiness that never seemed to last. But somewhere along the way, I realized the peace I was searching for wasn't waiting out there in the distance. It was already woven into the small, simple moments I've been too busy to notice. You see, gratitude isn't about forcing yourself to be positive all the time. It's not pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's softer than that. It's the quiet practice of saying, even now, there's something good here. It's the breath you take when you wake up and realize you have another day, another chance to see the sky, to speak kind words, to love and be loved. It's not about ignoring your pain. It's about remembering that even pain exists alongside beauty. Both can live in the same heart. There's a story I once heard about a monk who was asked what he did every day to find joy. He smiled and said, I wake up, I eat, I walk, I sleep. The man who asked him looked puzzled. But everyone does that. The monk nodded gently. Yes, but I am awake when I eat. I am present when I walk. I am grateful when I sleep. That's what gratitude really is. Not adding more to your life, but paying attention to what's already there. Sometimes I like to sit in silence and think about the small things that carry me through the hardest times. A stranger's smile, a song that found me when I needed it, a warm cup of tea on a cold night. None of those things fix my problems, but somehow they soften the edges of my pain. They reminded me that life, even when heavy, still holds tiny sparks of light. And when you start to notice those sparks, something beautiful happens. You begin to see them everywhere. Gratitude changes the way we see the world. It doesn't change what we have. It changes how we experience it. When you practice gratitude, even the most ordinary things become precious. A simple walk feels like a gift. The sunset feels like a quiet blessing. Even the challenges start to look different, not as punishments, but as teachers. Maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he said, let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learn a little. It's easy to forget this when life gets busy. We get lost in routines and worries and screens. But maybe that's why we need small reminders, moments of pause, breathe, and look around. Because right now, as you listen, there's something in your life worth appreciating. It might be small, but it's real. It might be quiet, but it's enough. Sometimes, before I go to bed, I whisper a simple prayer of gratitude, not a fancy one, just a few soft words. Thank you, not for everything being perfect, but for the chance to be here, to keep trying, to keep loving, to keep learning. Those two words have a way of shifting everything. They turn ordinary nights into moments of grace. They turn loneliness into reflection. They turn worry into wonder. So maybe tonight, after this ends, you can try it too. Close your eyes. Think of one thing, just one, that you're thankful for. Maybe it's someone's kindness. Maybe it's your breath. Maybe it's the fact that you're still standing after all that life has put you through. Whatever it is, hold it gently. Let it fill the space inside you that used to ache. That's what healing feels like. Not a grand revelation, but a quiet thank you whispered in the dark. And if these words reach you, if they remind you of something you already know deep down, that your life, just as it is, already holds beauty, then stay. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so we can keep walking this path together. This channel isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about remembering again and again that the light you seek is already within you. Maybe peace doesn't arrive in thunder or triumph. Maybe it comes like this, in a moment of stillness, a breath of gratitude, a whisper of thanks. And maybe that's enough.